We're here at NAB New York at the Bartow Technologies booth, a NewTek Elite partner out of New Jersey. And we're here with Chris Burgos of NewTek Incorporated. And he's going to tell us a bit about one of their latest product offerings.
Hey, Colin. We are showcasing the TriCaster TC1. This came out earlier in the year, right after NAB. And one of the cool things that we have now is the ability to have a full end-to-end IP workflow with our technology. So the TC1 will support up to 16 channels of NDI. And if you're not familiar with NDI, it's a NewTek IP protocol that will take audio, video, metadata, and transmit it across your local network. And this is all over contemporary standard networking gear.
So you don't need any special networking gear to do this?
No special hardware. You can actually go to Best Buy. I've done this myself. Go to Best Buy, get something that's got a full gigabit, connect all your devices on that gigabit network. So it's a little bit simple. And you can now pull your sources from any of your devices. Things like your laptop, things like graphic systems, cameras going from one TriCaster to another. A lot of things now support NDI, and it's this ever-growing space of development within NewTek and within the third parties as well.
Okay, now you said it transfers audio, video control, and metadata. What kind of metadata does it?
So at a simple level, you can think of something like if you had multiple studios, and you could have metadata assigned to each cameraman. So rather than just having just generic inputs, I could label, hey, this is Bob's camera, this is Sean's camera. And when the system looks at those inputs, it'll give that name, as well as it will transmit when those systems are going live. So if I take to that camera, there'll actually be one of these red borders that we see all over our display here, and that red border will indicate, hey, this system, this source is being used somewhere. The TC1 that we're looking at right now actually shows that the graphics channel, Graphics 1, is being used somewhere in one of the productions here, as well as Input 1. So even though this system itself isn't using it, somebody else could be using it. Those are some of the metadata pieces we transferred over NDI.
That's incredible. So all of the NewTek products here, I see the TC1 and the TriCaster Mini and the NC1 Studio. I'm not sure what that is. I'm sure you'll tell me in a TriCaster 8000. They're all talking to each other over NDI?
Everything's talking to each other NDI. So if you have the models from last year, that's the 8000, 460, 410, or the Mini line, and you have Advanced Edition, you already have access to NDI. So all our new products that we just launched within the last, let's say, 12 months, which are things like the Media DS, the TalkShow 4000, TC1, the IP series, the input modules, and the I/O modules, those are all just natively supporting NDI. So if you have an older model, get Advanced Edition, you support NDI. If you got something new, it's got NDI at the box.
Now, we've seen some manufacturers on the floor that said they're NDI capable or that they can take NDI. So NDI isn't just a NewTek thing? Or?
No, so what we've done with NDI is make our software development kit as available as possible. There's no upfront cost and there's no licensing fee. Now, we don't say open source because it isn't open source. One of the reasons why that is because we want to make sure that the NDI feeds, because there's so much going on at a network level, are not, contributing to things like shutting down your network or not being able to connect. So there is one piece of the chain that NewTek is checking, but otherwise any developer can go download our SDK and make their own application for NDI. And what you've seen is a lot of third-party developers like Graphic Systems, Chirons, New Blue Effects, recently VizRT. Those guys are adopting NDI with no cost up front and no licensing. It's a no-brainer for them. And now they're talking with this entire group of products because everything talks NDI that they couldn't access before. They're removing themselves from the constraints of the SDI and physical world and enabling that, enabling that ability over IP. So there's a lot of cool space, and a lot of that's due to us just saying, look, we want everyone to have NDI. As a core philosophy for NewTek, NDI is free and available for everybody who wants to use it.
Very cool. Now, as far as interactivity, if I wanted to do say a talk show, I know you have a product called Talk Show, but could I do that just with a TriCaster?
Yeah, so one of the cool things we did when we sort of launched the TC1 is we had this, we were working with Microsoft and Skype to do this thing called Skype TX. There's 3 companies in the world that can leverage Skype TX, and we made our product called the Talk Show. It's about 2 years ago now. Recently we released a 4-channel version of that, which, allows you to connect with people over Skype. But when we released the TC1, we just just decided to include 2 channels of talk show in the system. So buying a TC1 is the equivalent of buying 2 channels of Skype TX, which is broadcast quality. So they'll do a full 1080. They'll give you video and audio controls, and it's a really slick interface if you've never utilized it. And as well as giving you the ability to do 16 different NDI sources. One of the cool things about the Skype TX built in to the talk show, to the TC1, is that it does a custom mix minus natively. If you've ever done Skype, the mix minus is the biggest issue. The TC1 and everything NewTek has been doing recently is just this sort of almost user adopted revolution. The way we have NDI as this free, open, and available protocol means that somebody at home with the right inclination could go in and design using the same libraries that the guys in San Antonio and NewTek use, and have their own custom applications for NDI. And this has a lot of cool applications and things that the traditional broadcast space maybe doesn't work in. And part of that whole NDI thing is it's free, and it's expanding that traditional broadcast capacity into a much larger IT capacity. So you get guys coming to this who were IT professionals, and now that we're enabling things in the bandwidth world, they're taking this to a whole new level. And going forward, I think you're going to see, it won't even take that many years. We're already 2 years into NDI. We've already iterated on it 3 times to give it more and more. But I wouldn't be surprised that there's going to be these independent guys in local cities doing amazing stuff with NDI in a whole variety of realms.
Okay. Now I know there's some efforts to make NDI trans-network or inter-networkable,
Sure,
from like Sienna, etc. Is NewTek supporting those efforts or just monitoring them?
NewTek, we sort of, there's different pieces to this that we can look at.
Right.
Efforts with NDI-HX to make a high efficiency.
What's that?
NDI-HX just recently rolled out in August with NDI 3.0.
Okay.
It is a high efficiency version of NDI, which you take a traditional NDI signal, which your 1080 signal would be about 100 meg, and now that's 30 meg. And there's some compression things to consider, but you see these efforts that we're making as a company to continually revolutionize NDI as a protocol. Again, that part's all free. And you can see, like, we're enabling some of this stuff to happen. But I think we know the guys at Sienna who are making the cloud technology. And there's a couple of other third-party guys. One of the cool things that we have with that whole free development is there's a lot of third-party guys who are going to get involved with it. So NewTek is always keeping an eye on anyone who's trying to put something out to the end users, and we're trying to make sure that those things are properly handled and certified. So we're always back anything that has an NDI name brand, and we're always being involved with that stuff. As far as our own personal development, nothing at this time directly, but consider efforts we're making with things like HX and constantly progressing on NDI that we may not enable a piece A, but we're going to make so much work happen that it'll be solved eventually.
All right. Now I remember NewTek from way back in the day when you were a wee lad and they had essentially a frame grabber and some musical aspirations. Now, in all this time, it's been 30, almost 40 years.
Sure.
NewTek's never put out a camera, but I believe they have one now.
Yeah, so the NDI camera is so unique, and it's part of this. The reason why I tell everybody, we could have given TriCasters away for $5. It wouldn't have done what NDI has done for us in the last 2 years. So we make this cool IP protocol, and people start to utilize it, and NDI is great, it's super user-friendly. And one of the number one things that people are asking for is, when are my cameras going to have that? Because there's a certain comfort in removing away from the bulk of SDI cables, whether that be in routers or the price associated with things like fiber optics. To just use Ethernet, there's some sex appeal in that. There's some nice business to that. So basically, consumer demand kept asking for us, and NewTek now has a PTZ camera that supports the NDI HX version, which is the high efficiency stuff we talked about. So yeah, we have a PTZ camera, but going back to us being sort of open and friendly, 2 other companies have PTZ cameras, PTZ Optics and Panasonic.
Really?
Both have NDI HX PTZ cameras.
That's
And
awesome.
The beautiful part about it, just like everything else NDI, our cameras are enabled with PoE. So if you have a PoE plus switch, You plug one Ethernet cable in there, and it'll give you full control of the camera at a bunch of levels, whether that be on a control surface. Within our own applications, NDI is a smart protocol, so it'll recognize that it's a PTZ camera. It'll give you a virtual controller. You can use the joystick. We got the Xbox controller, Microsoft controller, so you can get your fighting game on if you wanted to control it.
You're kidding me.
Not joking, man. You know I love video games, so you can get your controller, or you can actually do it if you have an IP address. You can get access to the camera over the IP and control it that way. So lots of ways of control.
Wait, back up. Okay, so what can I plug in my Xbox controller into? Like, I mean, what NDI application? Any of the free ones in the suite?
Yeah, so it's part of the free suite. Depending on when you got your NDI applications, you may have to get some new ones.
Okay.
It's called NDI Studio Monitor.
Okay.
One of the things that, as a user, you should always be on top of, whenever we release a new version of NDI, so we did 1, 2, and 3 at this point, it's 2-year lifespan, all those tools are going to gain a lot of new features.
Okay.
And so we used to have this application free called Video Monitor.
Okay.
That's matured into Studio Monitor, and Studio Monitor has access to the control layers for the cameras, as well as doing preset shots. So even though we have these features built into the switcher, we're sort of democratizing this stuff as much as we can. And you know, just because you don't need our switcher to use the NewTek PTZ camera. The PTZ one, you could just pick that guy up and utilize NDI stuff and get your job done. It even has, with the Spark, which is something we haven't talked about, but we make this little box called the Spark in HDMI and SDI flavors. Plug something in and it will make that device NDI HX effectively. So it's a little throwdown. It can do Wi-Fi because NDI HX is that efficient.
Okay.
Now, at certain capacities, you gotta understand how Wi-Fi works, and you know, like in this space, I would never run something over Wi-Fi.
Sure.
This event. But it also has a hard wire in, and you can, you know, plug anything into that, a computer, an SDI device, whether it be a camera or multiple piece of technology. Now that's NDI enabled. So those devices have all these cool triggers, and for instance, the Kinect actually has a micro SD slot. Oh, why would you have a micro SD slot on it? So with the new Studio Monitor, you can actually trigger the Kinect box to record what's coming into it. So all these cool things are growing in the space of NDI, and we start to think about how we utilize these products. And I think a really cool story for us was the Eclipse.
Okay.
We had the Eclipse happening, and one of my coworkers, Jorge Tejero, he was manning the machine, and all the producers with Discovery were able to basically open up their laptops and get multi-viewers of all the sources because they went full NDI. I think they had 64 sources in combination with a bunch of different products that we have, and any producer could just pop their laptop open and say, I want to see this feed, I want to see the feed out of Washington State, I want to see the feed out of Vegas. And they were just pulling these things up, manning their own stuff. It's these really cool things where NDI was sort of started in the broadcast,
right,
but it's growing way faster.
That's incredible. Thank you. Is there any other cool things NewTek's doing? It sounds like a lot. That you'd like to talk about?
Let's see. We just released Live Panel. I think if you ever wanted to do custom control for your TriCaster and you weren't supercomputer savvy, Live Panel is a huge enabler for that. It's a piece of software for your TC1. If you have an IP series, it actually comes with it. And you can build custom control surfaces on any device that can access the same network as the TC1. Where it goes a step beyond the traditional stuff that we've done in the past is you can actually get things like video previews in there. You can have your audio controls, and it has a builder. So it has all these assets that if you wanted to see, like, hey, I want to make like a little video playback setup. Well, we give you the builder, and you can go in there and say, okay, preview this clip, and it'll actually give you the code associated with that. So you don't even have to be that computer savvy to put these pieces together. It's like Lego pieces for the TriCaster, like higher-end brain stuff. And if you're used to doing like macro-based commands before, it was like having to learn like a new language, like Latin. It had its own nomenclature and like verbiage, and it was intense. Very few people could do this on the fly.
Right.
But now we've made this much more easy and much more relatable to the point where I would see a lot of even middle schoolers being able to access this stuff. These students already have tablets in their classrooms, some device that drives this other piece is going to be a no-brainer for them, and has lots of use beyond that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Chris, for telling us what NewTek's been up to in the past few
Nice to meet you,
months.
Colin.
Take care.